Hello and welcome to another episode of Reseller Information Network. We are on episode 74, some of us. Tim just took a dive. Don't worry. He's okay, folks. He's okay. We do thank each and every one of you guys who have hung with us this long. And if you're brand new here and you haven't subscribed, before we get too deep into this thing, go ahead and hit that button down below. You can take care of that and get notified anytime that we are either live, which we are every Tuesday, or on our normal episodes on Friday. You can come and check us out. We do appreciate all of you guys. And we want to dive into some comments that we had today over this past video, not just today, but along the way. When we were talking this past week, we know we kind of went on the little Macari and the sky is falling pitch. But when we look at these things and say, obviously it resonated with some of you folks. Kathleen the Fernway Flipper says, great video, guys. You are right. Everyone take a deep breath. It's okay. Of course, we know the sky is falling. Thumbnails do get more clicks. But literally, apparently some people think the sky is falling in the reseller community. Black Sheep Society says it needed to be said. And Ask Cat Sue says, real resellers of the internet, season 1. Too many whiny brats. Life isn't made to stat the same. Change happens. Life is a roller coaster. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah. I love that saying, by the way. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah, I've always heard it said, suck it up, Buttercup. Like that's it. But Sal Smacardio.
You can Mercado.
I'm like,
no, Macario.
Sal's Macario says, you're making too much sense. Appreciate you all. Vintage Sports says, if you want people to buy your items, don't sell garbage. What a classic grant. This is where people need to get their reseller news, not a dude filming awkwardly in front of his BMW. There you go. There you go. Now, Kat does kind of bring it back around a little bit. Says, I completely understand Tim's rant about Macari, and I agree with most of it, but I think that many of us are pissed about his perception of more corporate greed. No seller fees on new listings, but old listings still have a seller and a buyer fee. Now add the withdrawal fee, although it is minor. It's just more. I feel like folks are fed up of the take mentality of corporations and need to vent. It will pass. Everything will go back to normal. But right now, folks need to be heard. Thanks for letting me do my little mini rant. Commonwealth Picker said, thanks, Leroy, for the video idea. I'll be paying everything in quarters this week at the yard sales. So we do thank you. And Kat, I did drop the link for you for a one-stop shop. If you haven't checked that out, you can come on over and check that out as well. We do, though, have a great episode for you guys today. We're actually going to be talking about some comparisons in what we should sell on eBay and other platforms. We're going to go bread and butter versus only high end. You make the call. We'll talk about it as we get into this thing. So stick around for that. And we do thanking each and every one of you guys for being here. We particularly do thank our channel members, and we're actually going to do things a little different. Stick around, channel members. We're going to give you a thing here at the end of the show today. So we do thank all you guys who have become a channel member. If you want to become a channel member, feel free to click the link down below, and it will show you how to get there. But, you know, this is kind of a hot topic today. We normally record on Tuesdays after that listing and loafing episode. So today we had a kind of little bit of discussion. Today. Leroy took the gloves off at one point. I thought he was going to come after some folks. But we want to kind of go around today and talk a little bit about one of the things that was brought up in our episode today was selling bread and butter items versus selling other items. And we talked about a lot of different aspects when it comes to that. First of all, let's kind of go around the horn. Guys, when you hear the word bread and butter items, what's the thing that comes to mind for you? So let's go, Leroy.
Bread and butter items, guys. Food. Food, right? Food, like that's what I'm thinking. Like food, I'm like, oh my god, I could eat it. No, it's not food. To me, it's like, and we'll go again around and around, but it's easy shipping, easy listing, you know, and it's lower dollar items. That doesn't mean bread and butter is a lower dollar item, because I know people that sell bread and butter. It's just it's an item that they have a lot of. It sells pretty decently. You know, it's like Eric's dough. I think Eric's dough is a bread and butter item because he's not making a bunch on it. He just goes, picks it up, and puts it in a poly mailer. So that's my little thought of bread and butter, and we'll get into that more on this episode.
Cernak, if you were to define bread and butter, what does that come to mind for you?
So bread and butter for me is items that I have already picked up in the past and have sold in a reasonable amount of time for the amount that I want. So when I go into a store, so because I do a lot of clothing, okay, I do a lot of clothing, shoes, hats, all that stuff. So I can see certain things that I'm like, yeah, I already sold. I've sold that before. I've sold that before. It's not the grail, like I found the item out of everybody. It's I've sold that pair of boots before. These Ariat boots, I've sold them before. I'm picking them up because I know I'm going to get them at a good price. I know that, I'm going to be able to clean them up, and I'm going to be able to sell them for a good price, So it's more of the things that I'm accustomed to are kind of my bread and butter. When I'm if you're selling shirts and stuff like that, Harley t-shirts are bread and butter. NASCAR, t-shirts are all, bread and butter because they'll eventually sell, because that's in the trend right now. So like I said, it's more of I've sold that in the past. I've done well with it. I want to pick it up again. So that's how I kind of designated bread and butter for my business.
All right, Tim, you have any different thoughts? Bread and butter, what do you think of?
Well, I just wanted to, for all the people out there, I was trying to find this, and I did not find it in time. I wanted to read something to everybody, but my phone keeps giving me 17,000 notifications at the time I'm trying to type something. Okay, here we go. So, by definition, all right, bread and butter is on multiple different things. A person's livelihood or main source of income, typically as earned by routine work, their bread and butter is, etc. An everyday or ordinary person or thing. Okay, so this is what the definition of bread and butter is. But I think like everything else in reselling, people take these phrases, these terms, and they Rubik's Cube them and they twist them, and then everybody kind of has their own outlook or meaning behind it. Like all of us look at it a different way. And I think that, some people hear it said by a certain, person who has some sort of influence in the community, and they feel like that's the end all be all, It's like bolo, bread and butter. I mean, it's all these words that people just throw around very loosely. To me, something that's bread and butter, this is to me, is something that I look at it from a selling standpoint more than an acquiring standpoint. I know some people look at bread and butter as something that they can easily find all the time, which I think could be. I don't think I see anything wrong with that. But for me, bread and butter is more of a selling term. It is something that I can pick up, that I know that I can sell fast for good profit. Now, to me, I think that even necessarily the good profit, I'm willing to take a little bit lesser my profit margin, because normally I like to have a high profit margin. I'm not buying something for $20 to sell for $40. I'm not doing that. because in the end, you're not even doubling your money because fees and just the work and the time and all that stuff, unless it's something that I know can sell fast. To me, that's what bread and butter is. Being able to find something that I think that will sell fast. And when I say fast, I know Leroy is itching right now. He wants me to tell you how long do I consider fast to be? And I think I said 3 weeks would probably, if it doesn't sell within 3 weeks, it's not bread and butter to me. That's my personal opinion. So
you think the bread goes stale after 3 weeks?
Hell yeah. Unless you keep it in the freezer. And now listen, there is a large scale of bread and butter because everybody's going to have a different thought of it. I'm not saying that other things can't be considered bread and butter, but to me, which I never use this term because I think it's a ridiculous term. So I don't ever say, oh, this is a bread and butter item. You know, like that's not something you'll ever hear me really say. But if I were to say it, bread and butter, then I will say that it's something that I can buy that I know that can sell in 3 weeks or less. No questions asked. I know it will sell. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times it's something that you've sold before too. You know what I'm saying? Like a high sell-through rate, that's bread and butter. You know, but outside of that, everybody's going to have a different idea on what bread and butter is. You know, like what kind of bread do you eat though? What's your go-to bread? Like we're talking loaf, all right? We're not talking like naan because I love me some naan. We're not talking about pita.
Split top wheat.
Is it sweat top or sweet top?
Split top.
Split top. What's that?
It's a kind of grain.
You just asked what kind of bread. Now you're gonna ask him what kind of bread.
I didn't know if it was a type of wheat bread or if it was a bread.
It is.
Yeah, it's a type of wheat bread. It's the type of grain that they use. The wheat grain that they use is called a split top wheat grain. And that's
Are you butter or margarine?
Butter. I can't believe it's not
out of the tub.
Have you ever used spray? Have you ever used spray butter before?
Only to cook.
Oh yeah, only to cook.
No, I'm not talking about the aerosol. I'm talking about the spritzer. Yeah, crack, so good.
That's just oil in a bottle.
I mean, Eric used to be a bread man. What's your favorite? What's your go-to bread, Eric?
So here's my bread. It depends on what I'm eating with the bread. Because sandwiches, like you've got all kinds of different layers, like different things that you're doing. Like obviously, if you got the corned beef or you got the pastrami, you got to go rye bread. Like you got to do it. Like it's just those two marry together. Honestly, I quit eating bread for a while because of working with the bread company.
Every day.
But like garlic bread, you know, you got to have do the French bread, cut it up, put the butter in between, all that kind of stuff. I'm a real butter person though. Like the margarine's kind of a little
no. But I disagree.
What about potato bread? Potato bread cranks.
Potato bread's good. I disagree though. Because depends on what kind of bread you use, but now are you toasting your bread?
Oh, there's no way I'm eating a sandwich without toasted bread.
So that
I
has
don't
to
trust
be
people who
sandwich.
I don't trust people who eat sandwiches with untoasted bread.
So is promoted listings toasting your bread?
Oh.
Leroy dropping a bar.
A little enhancement there. A little enhancement. Yeah,
a little additive. So you could be upgrading your butter. Is that what you're saying? You could be coming with a little something extra, a little something.
Here's the other thing. What do you put in your bread and butter in? Is it a poly bag? Is it a box?
How are you packaging it? Yeah.
How you package it? What kind of plate are you putting it on? Like, I'm being real.
Well, listen.
Well, I think that kind of goes through the whole thing with what Eric was saying earlier. You know, with the bread and butter, that in different categories, there's so many different kind of like what is bread and butter in this category versus what is bread and butter in this category. And then you have all these subcategories, you know. So I think, you know, again, however you break it down, you know, I think bread and butter is a positive thing to be picking up. Wouldn't y'all agree?
Yeah. So for me, let me give my little definition of bread and butter. Okay. So for me, bread and butter can be a few different things, right? Just like you have different types of bread. Okay. Tim, are you okay? Are you okay? Speak to us, Tim. Are you okay?
I gotta get back to my original.
He got excited about the bread.
No,
so
you call that?
For me,
that's
when I
using
look
a little bit too much butter. Tim just
listen, before we say anything else, I want everybody.
That's that spray oil. The spray oil got him. Like that's what happened.
I want everybody who's watching to drop a comment. Every single person who watches this video drops a comment. Tell us what your favorite bread is, and if you use butter or margarine, and who your go-to butter people are. Drop a comment and tell us below.
So when I think of bread and butter, I think of a few different things, right? Kind of a mixture of some of the stuff that's been said here. One, I do think of items that you can find, right? Because if you can't find it, you can't sell it. It don't matter what it is. Like for me, if I went out and said, look, the only thing I'm going to sell is Jordans from here on that I find at the thrift. Well, you know what I'm going to be selling? Nothing, because you're not going to find them at a thrift for what you can afford enough to eat. Like you talk about bread and butter, all you're going to be eating is probably not bread, because bread is expensive now. I guess like, hey, you might be having a little loaf with the water. Forget the butter because you can't afford it. But when we look at these things with bread and butter, is it something I can find to resell? Secondly, I do look at it as being, okay, so if you're selling in a category, we know every category has higher end and lower end items. I oftentimes think of bread and butter of being something somewhere in that middle. So like you may have one of the examples I pulled up, and I'm actually going to share in just a second about, is eBay does have a research tool for you guys that is available. TerraPeak is something you may or may not have ever used. Also, Tim has a link down below for Worthpoint. If there's things that seem like they're a little bit more rare, it's good to check those things out. But when you come to TerraPeak, like one of the ideas that first came to my mind is I do sell some clothing. I sell parts. So my parts bread and butter is different, right? Because parts are an item. It's not something that somebody wants. It's something that somebody needs. So when it comes to bread and butter, I consider parts bread and butter because it's something that is going to sell. May not sell today, may not sell tomorrow. It may not sell for a little while, depending on how rare the part is, but eventually it will sell. So then it comes down to not everybody can have the same amount of bread, right? Because we all got a different space and we all have different finances, right? So your bread and butter may not be my bread and butter because, hey, mine can only sit on the shelf for a day because I need that space because I got to go buy something else tomorrow. But for me, I've got a section in my shed that's nothing but parts. And those parts sell every day, but they don't sell out every day because the other thing I did with my bread is I didn't buy it a slice at the time, right? Like I went out and I bought a load of that stuff and now it's selling every day. So for me, when I look at bread and butter, is it available and is it something that will sell? Like those are things.
Question. I agree with that term, okay? But what if one of your friends doesn't like your kind of bread or your kind of butter, and you literally want to buy him a box of it, but he don't want to sell your bread and butter? He don't like, even though you're telling your friend, listen, bro, take this box of bread, and this box is going to make you bread and butter for the next 6 months. Like right now, you be banging every day, putting stuff in a poly bag, but he don't like your bread. He from the hood. He don't like your bread.
Okay, listen. I am declaring now that after 1 year, the 1 year anniversary of me not buying the lawnmower part, that you guys are no longer allowed to bust my balls.
It's not going to happen.
I want that to be expiring after this year's 127. I dropped the ball. I've admitted it. I was being, you know, my bipolar got the best of me that day. But yes, I dropped the ball.
We did
rehashing those emotions.
Yeah, we did begging. We told him, you know, it ain't sexy, but it pays the bills. That's the other thing I think about with bread and butter. Hey, it may not be your favorite thing to sell, but it sells. And if you are, because here's the other side of things, full-time or part-time. Look, at part-time, you don't got to pick up no bread and butter if you don't want to. If you just want to cherry pick the cream and get the best of the best all the time, and that's your business model, great. But the rest, the folks that are, hey, you got to make money, you know what you're going to do? You're going to say, I need some bread and some butter because I got to eat. Like that's what you're going to do.
But on Tim's defense, I will say, don't go buy something because Resell Information Network said this is a bread and butter item. If you're not into it, if you don't have the passion for it, don't do it. I'm going to be honest with you, because I got stuff in this warehouse that hasn't been listed in 2 or 3 years because I saw a video or I was able to get it cheap and bought it cheap, but I just don't want to list it. I'll give it away before I list it. So in Tim's defense, like, it's not his passion, even though it's a bread and butter item, don't do it. But then you have to also think, is it something that I can have small laying around in one box? If I go on vacation, I can put a little shoebox in my backpack and I can list postcards for 3 weeks while I'm away. So sometimes that's where it will work because you're still active in your store and it is something that you really don't want to list, but it's going to help you continue getting listings. You're still working, you get those postcards or stamps or coins or whatever it is, small baseball cards, you get them done, you don't ever do them again. So there's different parts of that. Like for me, that is like, I would never do that. But then it's like, okay, hold on. I got this box of pins. I know it's probably worth about $300. I'm going away this week. I'll take 30, 40 pins and list 1 or 2 a day. And I'm still creating, and it was an easy list. I was able to take it with me. It's going to be easy ship, and it's a bread and butter item.
So for all of you guys, so what's something for you that is one of your, it's in your wheelhouse, like, you know, when you see it, I'm picking that up. And it's not that it's a grail. It's not something that you're just like, oh man, I can't believe I found this. Like, you know, it's not one of those things. It's just like, dude, I've either sold this or I honestly, like, for a season when I did reselling, the reseller roundtable, and I interviewed all those guys, and all the people would be telling me about things that they sold. And lo and behold, I would go out the next day, because that was a Friday night show, and Saturday, and I would see some things sometimes where I'd be like, dang, that I know will sell, because this guy's like, hey, this sells all the time. This is going to sell. And so I saw it out there. I was like, you know what? I'm picking that up. It's not in my wheelhouse, but it is an item that will sell. And, you know, when we look at those things, one of the things I always think about is A, what are you paying for it? Like, dude, if I'm paying $1 or $2 and I know it's $25, $30, is there anybody that's going to leave a $20 bill just laying on the sidewalk and say, it's not worth picking up? Or if somebody said, hey, I'll trade you a 20 for a 1, are you going to do that? Probably so. So what's something you guys pick up? Tim, what would be an item that you're like, if I see it, I'm picking it up, I know it'll sell?
Uranium glass right now is just something that I know that I can pick that up and I can put it in a live sale and it will sell. I think that's one thing too that we have to consider in this whole discussion about bread and butter is, you know, with modern reselling, you know, live selling is part of modern reselling. There's no question about it, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I do everything. I sell on every platform. Anything I can do, I at least try. Okay. So like for me, I look at things as a lot of my bread and butter is stuff that I know that because for me, bread and butter is a lot about speed. It's about turn and burn. So for me, I look at it as, is this something that I can sell on a live sale and get good money for? Because what I want to be able to do is I want to take my bread and butter items, make money off those bread and butter items fast so that I have, because I don't have a lot of capital, right? So for me, if I can buy items, make money on those items fast so that I can reinvest that money into other items that I can list that are high dollar items on eBay, Etsy, Mercari, Poshmark, Depop, Grailed, that might take a month or two to sell, that I can hold off on those items because I don't have so much capital wrapped up into them. So those items I don't necessarily need to be like, oh my God, why is this not selling? Because it's a $200 item, a $300 item, a $100 item, a $75 item. So for me, like uranium glass is one of those things, you know, anything unique looking is bread and butter to me right now, because visually I can sell these items on live sales because they're so unique, obviously. I think there's certain bread and butter hats. And listen, once again, I don't use this term all the time, so I don't want you guys to think that, go out here and be like, well, Tim said this was bread and butter. I think if you find these sort of hats, the shark tooths and stuff like that, if you price them competitively, I think they're bread and butter for me, because, you know, that's what people are buying in hats right now. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, I think that's something as far as hats go, like, you know, all the big ones, those are things that are bread and butter. I think brooches are bread and butter right now, you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with obviously shipping costs, storage, you know, those sort of things that Eric was talking about earlier. I think brooches are kind of bread and butter for me. I'm trying to think. It's hard to really get into specifics. I'm trying to think about stuff that Doc Martens, I don't know, and combat boots. Ever since Cernock put me on the combat boots, those things don't last for me in my store. It's they don't, and they sell on every single platform. It does not matter. I've sold combat boots on Poshmark. I've sold them on Depop. I've sold them on eBay. I've sold them on Grailed. Combat boots, that's one. I mean, that's crazy. I'm trying to think now of stuff that I've bought recently that has sold super fast. The combat boots definitely. If you get a good golf club, like a good golf clubs, they will sell fast. Like now, you're not gonna find them all the time, but like pitching wedges, sand wedges, lob wedges, gap wedges of good like companies those are bread and butter for me. Like I wedges do not last long for me. Putters do not last long for me. I think drivers and your irons are a little bit harder to sell than wedges and putters. I'm just gonna go down in my mind. Pyrex, okay, not rare, but not the everyday one. So that's like your spring blossom, your crazy daisies, your brown Amish Americana, or like all of those ones that you see all the time. But like other like blue, pink Pyrex, gone out the door. Mid-century modern, Art Deco, gone out the door. That sort of stuff does not last long in my stores. I feel like there's more. If I think of, I'm gonna look and see if I think of any else before you guys get back. But I don't want to waste all the time of me just thinking. But that's just some off the top of my head that and once again, that falls in line with me, my terminology and definition of bread and butter.
Basically, Tim's redefining bread and butter to bowler / hey, if you find a shark tooth hat like at every yard sale, that's bread and butter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that's why I prefaced it by saying that you're not going to find it all the time.
So Tim's not getting off the shelf bread. He's going to the bakery and sitting and waiting on them.
Because for me, bread and butter is what sells fast. That's my definition of bread and butter. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm so in the zone of selling fast for other things. Like, I mean, what else are we going to talk about bread and butter? I mean, like,
for me, honestly, like thinking about you and what you sell, I would say for you, sports cards from the dollar boxes is your bread and butter. It's out there. You can find it.
Okay. Like that kind of something that kind of fits into everything. But like, I don't buy what most people think of as bread and butter. Like, I don't buy like normal things. So like for me, I don't want to give you advice on what bread and butter is, because like I see people all the time talking about, oh, look, this Columbia or North Face or like those sort of like clothing brands that you can find all the time are bread and butter for some people. But that's not what I sell, because those things cost too much money where I live. Like I'm not Cernock. I can't. Do you know how much a North Face is at the thrift store here? It's like $20, $30. Like, what? I'm not buying that. What is that? What are you saying, Cernock? 150?
$150 where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. And I think that goes back to what Eric was saying in the beginning, is that bread and butter is going to be defined by your business model, you know, your finances, your space, you know, your environment, your sourcing environments has a lot to do with your things too. So it's like, and I understand what you're saying, and I probably shouldn't have used this as an example, but I know that if I list a shark tooth hat at a competitive price, it will sell. To me, that's bread and butter.
A shark tooth hat is a grail, not bread and butter, bro.
But
to me,
how many shark tooth
it is. But listen, if you say you were using my terminology, my definition of bread and butter as something that sells fast, you know that if you list a shark tooth hat at a competitive price, not lowballing yourself, but also not trying to get $1,000 for it like we've seen in some of these places, right? You know that it's going to sell fast, right?
Yeah, yeah. But hold on.
That's my definition.
You have a pair of Jordans. I got 300 pair of Jordan. I got a rare Jordan that's selling for $400. I'm gonna list it for 200. Well, it sells instantly. That's not bread and butter to me. You just sold a grail for too low. That's what I think.
That's why I said pricing it competitively, not lowballing yourself.
Bread and butter for me is kind of more in the same thing as Eric. Okay, I'm thinking, what can I find? Anytime I go to my honey hole, I might see this and I'm gonna pick it up. Okay.
Chelsea boot, zip side.
Eric knows this. Side zip Chelsea, black leather Chelsea boot, floor shine, whatever. It could be not a brand. This is my bread and butter. I pick these up all the time. I may do a little leather lotion. I started dyeing some of them. It's because I know that these have a great sell-through rate.
Yeah.
And they do sell pretty quickly. Now, I don't ever go back. That's one thing I don't ever do is I don't ever go back and go, well, how fast do those sell? Now, I'll know it if they sell fast, but I'm not going back and going, all right, well, that one took 30 days to sell. That one took 20 days. I don't do that. So, but I know in my mind that every time I pick these up and list them, they sell. They sell eventually. And that's what, and I regroup it, buy these again. Now, the one thing too, now a bread and butter thing, like a RA bread and butter, I've got some brands at a certain place I go. I'm not going to say it. Okay. But I have a couple brands, brand of jeans and a brand of golf wear. Okay. If you go look at my store, you might be able to figure that out. Hey, chat, see if you can figure that out. Brand of jeans, brand of golf wear that at this certain store that I'm not going to name because I don't want anybody, coming, some of these guys know what I'm talking about. But I know I can walk in there and anytime find that brand or find that pair of jeans or find that pair of golf wear and I'm going to buy it because I know that the sell-through rate and I'm not even comping anything of this stuff. I'm just grabbing it because I've sold so much of it in the past. I know it. I know it'll sell again. So that's why I pick up. And that's kind of like bread and butter on the RA for me, where when I can go into a store and don't even have to comp the model, comp nothing. I know I'm picking. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example of this kind of RA bread and butter. Ross was selling Ultra Boost, Adidas Ultra Boost shoes for $24.99. Now, if you've been in the sneaker game, you know that Adidas Ultra Boosts are $180 retail. I'm not even comping that stuff. I'm grabbing them for $25. And here's the thing, and this is kind of like where I say, hey, I don't care how long it sells. I'll hold on to that for a year to sell it for $120 because I know eventually everyone else, even if it's flooded, everyone else found them. Let them sell theirs at $60 a piece. I see it all the time. $59.99 free shipping. Guess what? You just made $8 profit. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm gonna wait 6 months, 9 months, and eventually I'm gonna sell those for $120 because I'm confident in that buy, and I know that to me is a bread and butter item because I can get it for so cheap. That's where, like, you know, like you said, you can't find North Face or Columbia jackets. See, that's bread and butter for me because where I shop, it's so cheap where it's just like, all right, grab it. Dude, I don't even look at the stains or rips or anything like that. If I get it home and it's got a stain or rip, I just throw it in the trash because I only paid $1.50 for it. So that's kind of like
shoot cameras. Point and shoot cameras. That was another one, I think.
Yeah. Point
and shoot cameras is a good bread and butter. I just looked through my solds as far back as eBay would take me. I'm not. There's no rhyme or reason to my sold.
I think bread and butter though. See, I think sometimes bread and butter gets mixed up with the bolos too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning.
Like it gets intertwined in that. I think for me, like I said, a bolo is I can walk to the thrift shop, I can walk to the RA shop. I don't even have to pull out my phone. I can just start stacking. I can just start stacking because I know I've sold it before. I made a great profit on it, and I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah.
Are we thinking that maybe bread and butter is more of a? Is it more of a buying term than it is a selling term to you guys then? Is bread and butter more so?
I think it works both ways.
I think, like I said, for me, availability. So, like, okay, I think about when I'm on the hunt. Like, if I'm having a yard sale day, right, and I'm out sourcing. When I'm looking at, obviously, I'm looking for high end. I'm looking for the stuff that, like, oh, that's 100. That's 100. But then I'm looking around too. I was like, dude, there's 25. There's 30. And these prices are like, you know, I mean, you guys know how I negotiate anyway. So, like, you know, what I'm doing is I'm making a little pile. I'm trying to get it for the bottom dollar. So what my thought is okay, yeah, there's no $100 laying out here, but there's a 20, there's a 30, and none of that stuff is like, I'm not excited about it. But what I'm saying is, okay, that's a tank of gas. What does
that make? How does that make it bread? What about that makes it bread and butter?
Because it's common items. It's not like it's like what you said. It's common, like, meaning I can go to 10 yard sales and find that at 2 or 3. Like, to me, that would be my thought. And just like so for me, and this is something I was going to share, and Leroy, I will get you on this area, but I'll just share this little bit for me and then go back to you. But so when you look at bread and butter, one of the bread and butters for me, so I'm just going to add this to the stage and show you guys real quick. So this is Terapeak, right? So now I just got to find which tab I'm on. So if I go to Terapeak and I type in Converse, right? Converse men's athletic shoe. Okay. So this is Converse men's athletic shoe for this past month, right? Okay, so now we're going to go in and we're going to look at use, because we're not talking about just new. We're talking about use. All right, so use Converse, average sell price $35, right? Free shipping 11% of the time, 136,000 in sales this past month. The sell-through rate 12.75. So for me, I already knew this without looking at this. I know for me, if I pick up Converse and I get them at the prices right, I'm going to sell them around $30. I know.
So that means you're not paying any more than $5 for those,
no,
right?
Never. At a yard sale, no way.
Yeah.
I mean, not for Converse.
No way.
But yeah. At Converse.
I'll get it for 50 cents or $1.
Yeah. I mean, for me, maybe $2 or $3 out here. $2 or $3 is where I'm at.
And Tim, not to like, I think you have this idea and we have different ideas because of where we source.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Where your sourcing is a little, like the thrift shops you're going into, you're getting blown away with the prices. It's like, because I help people out, when they're sourcing too. Okay. Me and Eric's been on the phone before sourcing. I'm like, yeah, pick that up. No, pass on that.
Yeah.
And it's like, because the thing about it is, well, with a lot of bread and butter items for me, I know what price I need to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And dude, if I go to a yard sale or a thrift shop and they're like, yeah, these Converse are $10, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm trying to make sure that people who are listening and watching understand, is that just because it's a bread and butter item doesn't mean that you buy it all the time.
Well, I mean,
because
just like
Converse is a bread and butter item based upon Eric's theory, but only if you can get it less than $5 or less, right? I think some people they get confused and they hear somebody say, "Oh, low top Converses are bread and butters, they're bolos," or whatever they want to use. So now people are going out there and they're spending $10, $15 on these low top Converse to sell them for $30. You're not even doubling your money, not even getting close after promoted listings, after fees, after supplies, after time. Mm-hmm. So it's like that to me is like, that's why I want people to understand, is that everything that all four of us are telling you about bread and butters, right, is different, because there's so many variables that go into these sort of things. And time again, people on the internet, whether it's a Facebook group, a YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, they're telling you things, but they're not giving you the context behind the things that they're telling you. And what we're trying to do right now by showing you all these different views and opinions is giving you the context behind the terms bread and butter, right? Because it's different for everybody. There's so many variables that go into it. Just because somebody says an item is a bread and butter item doesn't mean buy it, no matter what.
Well, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna change up that phrase on yours. Just because it's a bread and butter item, if you can't purchase it for the price you should be paying for it, it's not a bread and butter item to you then.
I mean, that's
just like a bolo. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I found a bolo. All right, give me a bolo. Give me a bolo, guys.
Yeah, you've already mentioned it. Shark tooth. Yeah.
Shark tooth hat. Okay. Shark tooth hat. Okay. If I go to a store, a vintage shop that I've never been to, and they got a shark tooth hat, I'm like, yo, that's awesome. Houston Oilers shark tooth hat, and they have $250 on it. I'm not paying for that. That's not a bolo. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where it's like, it all depends on the price. If it's and if you're getting it that cheap, things can turn, like a lot of things that are to me are bolos and bread and butter aren't to other people because they can't buy them as cheap as I can.
And condition is the other thing, because like we're talking shoes, we're talking anything. I mean, Leroy, I'm going to get him to jump in, but Leroy, like when you go and you see, like, I know your wheelhouse is tools, but bro, you see a claw hammer that the thing's cracked in half and the guy's like, hey, I want $15. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, so Leroy, what are some things for you that are like, hey, if I see that out there and the price is right, I'm picking it up because I know it'll sell.
So I'm looking through my store, and this is no pun on Tim, but like the parts, the lawnmower parts, I mean, going through my store, it's like it doesn't matter if it's June, July, August, December, January, they're selling constantly. Somebody right now they're selling a little bit more. When I first put them up, they were selling a little bit more. That stuff been selling for me really well. You know, I am going to switch the script a little bit. Now because I was focusing a little bit more for the flea market stuff. People laugh at me, and I don't know if you guys really know this, but I went to Dollar Tree and I spent about $80 about 2 weeks ago. And I bought anything that I thought I could sell for 50 cents to $1 that had a quantity of at least 6. And I put it in separate bins. And I'll tell you something. I sold the peanuts out of that this last 5 days. This last $1, 50 cents, $1, 50 cents. I paid $1.25 for it, whatever the new thing is. But I knew in my head going through that place that people, little containers you see at the Dollar Tree, just little, like, you can put pills in it or butter in it or something like that. They sell them 8 for $1. I was selling them 50 cents each. I sold out. Okay, these little China mini micro machines, they would dump trucks. I'm at a swap meet. They would dump trucks, tow trucks. I only bought 6 packages. A dummy should have bought 15 packages because I sold out of them. Ear combs, same thing. Like, so, like these guys are saying, if it's something that you sort of have an idea, even though I'm only making a quarter or 50 cents each piece, I sold 50 pieces. You know, if there's a socket or something or a ratchet or a hammer that I know and I don't have to comp it, and it's $1 or $2, that's a bread and butter item for me. If I don't have to comp it, apparently I already have knowledge about that item. Yeah. And I know that within 4 months, it's going to sell. You know, we joke around and we kid. How long do you want to sit on it? How much storage room do you have to store it? That is what's going to show you what is bread and butter for you. Because my bread and butter or Tim or Eric's bread and butter is going to be different. But if you have to do something where you can only store a little bit of stuff or a lot of stuff, but it has to be small, boom, that's something that may work for you. Second thing, what in your area can you get cheap? And you know that there's a, you know, if you know next year that just say Carolina, the Gamecocks, I don't know if I'm saying the right name. I think it's the Gamecocks. If you know that they're going to win again next year, and I go to yard sales and I see a ton of this stuff, do I pick it up if it's a quarter or something here and there? And then next year at this time, knowing they're going to be in the Final Four again, I sell it like crazy? Is that a bread and butter item because I have to sit on it for a year, but I bought it for peanuts during the yard sale season, and then next year I know they're going to get in the Final Four. I know, you know, the Tar Heels are going to get in the Final Four. Just saying, you got to determine for you. Don't watch YouTube videos and let everybody else run your eBay business, like, for real. Don't.
Yeah, you know, listen, for one more thing, because after listening to what everybody has said, I think it's important to say this. I don't think there is, I think it's a lot more difficult to tell somebody what a bread and butter item is. I think bread and butter should be an ideology.
For you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your bread and butter. It's like this. Think about this. You, in your house, you know where your bread is at and you know where your butter is at. And you know how to put those together. You may be using margarine or butter or spray or whatever we talked about. Wheat bread, split top, rye, pumpernickel, I can go on. Okay, sourdough. It's whatever you have available to you in your house. I think it kind of like that kind of is synonymous with what we're talking about right now, where if it's in your house, you know where it's at. If you're out in the field, garage sale and thrift shop, you know what you're looking for. That's your bread and butter. So I think that kind of makes it a little bit like, instead of like disagreeing, it's kind of like more like, hey, we're not going to tell you what's bread and butter. You tell me what your bread and butter is.
Exactly.
What are you finding what are you finding all the time that you're successful at? Because here's the thing. A lot of people are finding a lot of stuff that I never find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's their bread and butter. And I find a lot of stuff that they'll never find. And that, to me, that's my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. You will fail because you will be spending like time that is so important as a reseller. If you are so focused on finding somebody else's bread and butter, that's where you're going to fail and where you're going to get a mistake. Don't spend so much time focusing on what a particular bread and butter item is. Focus on what bread and butter means to you. What the ideology behind the phrase bread and butter. Put that, it's like everything else we tell you here at Resell Information Network. You got to do what works best for you. There's always going to be so many variables. You might be, the best part about this episode is you're going to be able to take something Leroy said. You're going to be able to take something Cernock said. You're going to be able to take something Eric said. You're going to be able to take something I said. And you're going to be able to piece all that together and apply it to your surroundings. And now you're going to have the best bread and butter solution for yourself. And that's what our goal is. We're not here to tell you that my thought process of bread and butter is better than any of these guys or anybody else's. We want you to understand what it means, not what it is, because that's where you're going to lose and that's where you're going to fail. And next thing you know, you spent a whole entire week trying to find something. And if you did find it, you probably overpaid for it. And now you're out of money, you're out of time, and you're not going to make any profit. So and that right there is the
lawnmower parts were just right there.
Yeah, and I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. I have a prime example of that is going to haunt me for forever now. Thanks to Leroy.
As long as he knows Leroy.
Rehashing that.
Hey, I mean, for me, like, just to circle back too with some of that is, you know, for me, bread and butter, like if you do like that whole idea of what's available to you and available in a condition to where you can sell it, and B, in a price to where it fits your thing. And then, like Leroy said, do you have space for it? So bread and butter, like, hey, if I have a warehouse that I can buy pallets, like my boy Otts, I can buy 25 pallets of auto parts, and I'm going to sell auto parts every day from now until I die. Like, those are the things that, like, for him, that ain't the same as, you know, Tim's got a couple rooms he's working with. Like, if pallets started getting dropped into yard out there, hey, people.
I mean, you heard Josie on this here, Luffy. She didn't even want the overalls to come in here.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, when you think about that, so everybody's circumstance is different. I mean, one of the things I do consider bread and butter, like, that's always going to fall in that credit category for me, is it something that someone has to have or something that's just a want? Yeah. Because if it's something that someone's got to have, eventually it's going to sell. You still have to take pictures and do the right thing by the item. But like, just like with parts, and like, so I've sold a lot of different kind of parts. I've sold washing appliance parts, like all the appliance parts. Those things sell all the time. I've sold car parts and boat parts and radio parts and everything under the sun. And one thing I can tell you about all those things is they do sell, They don't all sell out immediately, but if you have the space and you can fool with it, it's good. I kind of think of my store all the time of more like Walmart than, you know, like Polo Ralph Lauren. Like for me, there may be some Polo Ralph Lauren around, but I got a little bit of everything in the store. I got some stuff you need. I got some stuff you want, right?
I'm
like
Dollar Tree.
That's the thing. Leroy said he's Dollar Tree at a flea market.
So low, let it go.
Yeah. So I mean, you think about those things, and that, just like Tim said, it's great to know that you don't have to be like everybody else. Can you learn from other folks? Absolutely, and we should. Like Tim just talked about. Cernock showed us some stuff about boots that I would have never known. I sold a dolly today for ridiculously cheap because I screwed up the listing. But I can tell you, I would have never even looked at a dolly until I met Leroy. I didn't even know what a dolly was, other than that's something my sister played with in Comet's hair. But when we look at those things, those are.
I'll tell you one thing. Sometimes you have to take real life into your hands and figure out, well, what could sell, or what experiences did I learn where I can make money off of this experience. I'm going to start selling suntan lotion. I'm going to start selling suntan lotion because I don't want to look like this again. So for you guys who come to my flea market stand, you'll see suntan lotion, sunblock, because I don't want to be a lobster again.
Mm. Hey, you should have just put your logo on the back of your head.
That would have been great. Reseller Information Network cutout. Right.
Hey, look, we do want to give some thanks before we wind this thing down to some of our channel members, and I say I'll get Tim to get on the mic and get you guys.
I thought you guys were like running some sort of different thing because of the way you described it in the beginning.
Yeah,
I need to get back.
We're just making them watch the whole show for a shout out. That's all it is.
Oh, okay. I need to get back to my other setup because this microphone makes me sound like crap when I do everybody's name. So I promise next week I'll be clean and organized and back to my fancy setup for everybody's shout outs at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
All right, let's rock and roll.
We have a new channel member today that we have to make mention of as well. So
thank you to our channel members, AZ Katsu, Simply Shenanigans Shanna, Diane Matthews, our very own Blood, Sweat, and Cell, Trash Cat Rescue, New England, Let Move, Joe Hill, Old School Picker, Vintage, Sport Flips, Charities, Terrific Finds, Kathleen the Fern Wave Flipper, Ohio Pickers, Annette and Frank, Rudely Retro, Absolute Finds, Des Hardy, Heather Pedler, Jane Steinbreaker, Old Pass, High Plains Flipper, Walter Tilton, Black Sheep Society, Death Pile Picker, Mark Rollins, Tracer J's Trading, Aaron Vaughn, Central Iowa Picker, Wiggle Room, Buck Mountain Barn, Pinjo Picker, and Trash to Cash Podcast.
Love it.
There we go. We got them in. Hey, so we're going to go around. We do thank each and every one of you guys for being here. Don't forget to check out Tuesday Listing and Loafing. If you're not a member of the One Stop Shop, come on by and join that thing. You talk about bread and butter, buddy. We got plenty of bread in there, plenty of butter, every flavor, even some of that herb infused butter. If you want to come by, we got some specialty stuff in there. If you want to look at what's in the store, make some deals. If you're a reseller and you need some bread and butter items that you can't find in your area, we got a wholesale section. We got some stuff just waiting. In fact, Tim's got some jeans. Mike could be a little bread for you coming your way. So he needs to get them out of there. All right, Cernock, what do you got?
Hey, listen, I think we had a great discussion today. Listen. We gave the viewers multiple things to put down in the chat. So hey, put those things down in the chat. Let us know what your bread and butters are. Let me know what your bread and butters are. Okay. So it's kind of like what's your bread, what's your butter, and what's your bread and butters. Okay. So let us know. Because listen, we don't do this for ourselves. We do this for you guys. You know what I'm saying? Tuesday, we don't do it for ourselves. We do it for you guys. So that keeps us going. Let us know. Tuesday's chat was awesome. Gave us a bunch of great topics to talk about. So we're going to be hitting it back on Tuesday. So come visit us on Tuesday after watching this. And yeah, everyone have a great week. Go find some bread and butter items.
You're right.
I'm hungry. These guys have been talking about food the whole son of a gun episode. I think it's baloney. I'm not really happy about this. I might have to go to Dollar Tree and see if I can find some more little Matchbox cars and maybe some bags of chips. So until next time, America, we will see you around town. And thanks for stopping into the reseller supermarket of YouTube.
Wait, Leroy, I got a question for you, Leroy, before Tim goes on. Bro, you know we were talking about bread and butter. How did you not show up with bread and butter on a plate and eat it while the episode?
I'm in the dungeon.
Oh.
He ate it before we came on. That's what happened.
Now, here's the thing, right? When you put bread, what can you put with bread and butter? Because you put 2 pieces of bread, some butter, and a piece of cheese in the middle. Now you got a whole other topic, guys. We'll talk about that next week. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Grilled cheeses all the way around.
I love pepper jack. That's my kick right now, pepper jack cheese. All right, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a doozy today. A lot of fantastic information. We love this sort of stuff. This was effortless. I'm sure we could have gone on for 2 hours. But make sure you comment below. Tell us your favorite bread, your favorite butter, okay? And then tell us what your definition of bread and butter is in the reselling world. We appreciate all the love and all the support. Thank you to everybody who joined us on Tuesday. Thank you for everybody who is subscribed, who is a member, everybody who hits the thumbs up, everybody who comments. We appreciate all the love and all the support. We are super excited. We are literally about 3 weeks away from all being together once again. Myself, Eric, Leroy, and Bernard, we're super excited about that. So hopefully we'll be I'll be filming some behind the scenes RIN content and putting up some videos of our expedition, which will be a lot of fun. But as always, most importantly, don't forget to tell a friend about RIN Reseller information.